Welcome back to Tesla Thursday tips and tricks. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about your profile settings. And one of the best parts about the profile settings is you can set up obviously profile if you have a loved one or someone else you want to give access to your car. But there is something that most people don't think about, and something I do, and that is I set up a profile specifically for my trips. The reason I do this is because I have certain things that I do, I guess, when I'm in the city, when I'm doing my everyday errands and job and everything else, and I want my car to act a certain way, basically when I am doing my everyday things. But I want my car to act a completely different way, and I have a different display, I have a different scenario going on when I'm on my road trips. In my case, I'm going to show you guys a few things here. So I'm going to put up on the screen side-by-side comparisons of basically the road trip compared to my normal settings. So if you guys look up top, it says road trip. That's specifically set up so that you guys can see what the scenario is. Now in this case, on the road trips, the quick controls is pretty straightforward. It's not a big deal. It's basically the same as my regular everyday settings. My suspension is also the same, and I don't know if you guys noticed, but under the adjust speed, the set is once again, so the lowering speed is set to 80 kilometers regardless if I am on mine or if I am on the road trip. Under lighting is always going to stay the same, except for the road trips. I do have the headlights after I exit. I do want them to come on. Most of the time I'm going to be driving on road trips, which means I'm going to be driving around at night. In some of the areas, I don't mind having the headlights come on after I exit, whereas my regular settings do not have the headlights going on after I exit. Under my driving, I'm pretty sure you guys can see, but under my personal, I have the steering mode put to comfort, and that's because I'm driving around the city, and it's just much more comfortable to drive with very light steering compared to my road trip, which is actually put onto sport. It's a little bit more stiff, especially if you're doing a highway. It's just a lot more fun to do that. In the autopilot section, it's pretty much the same thing. Both settings are all exactly the same, unless you go to customize. When you go into the customize navigation on autopilot. See, I have under my personal one, I have the speed-based lane change actually disabled. That's for just me kind of, I guess I want to control that for my everyday use. But for my, when I'm on a road trip, I actually have that put on mild, so it's not crazy. It doesn't change lanes really quickly. It is actually pretty good. I love the fact that, I do want to have a require lane change confirmation. So yeah, that's pretty much the big change on that one. Under the vehicle settings, between the my personal or the other way around, it's really the same. It doesn't really change anything. And the same thing happens with the display. The display basically stays the same, and it's not a big deal. I don't really mess around with that. However, when you go to trips, one thing you'll notice is under my personal, I leave my odometer on. So basically, since my last charge and my odometer, I don't have anything else on my main screen, and that's really good because I just want to just see that. But if I go into my road trip, my road trip itself actually has the road trip tagged up, so that I don't care about the odometer for that as much as I care about just the road trip itself. So that's pretty neat. I like that part, and it's nice to have that put up, because basically I can see my entire road trip. What have I done, how many kilometers, what's the total energy and the average energy as well. And for navigation, on my road trip, I actually do have used HOV lanes, but under my personal, I took it off and I put the used avoid the ferries and avoid tolls. That's because I don't really do it. Those are some of the key elements that I think is really important. Now, the screen right in front of me, for example, this is for the Model S and X. The biggest change is definitely how I approach it. So the odometer, as you guys can see, shows up my since last charge, and it's a really good way to do it. And then, as you guys can see, it says since 150 in this case, so the last time you start up your car. Those ones show the information. But for my road trips, it does change around, where I have the music now on the right, and then on this side I actually just have the road trip since the last charge and since the 150. The advantage of this, all the stuff, is you don't have to go through and change all these things. And I actually do have a road trip 2 planned, and that's usually if I have, or the road trip US. So because I'm in Canada, obviously all my settings are based for all of my display is based on the Canadian formats. However, if I go to the United States, then obviously I'm going to change over my my distance to miles. Sometimes even my temperature, I change it over to Fahrenheit. That's a personal preference, but that's under a different road trip. This is road trip. I use this for Canada when I'm doing road trips in Canada. If I go to the US, then I have road trip US. And that has pretty much all the same settings, except for the fact that it changes for miles, maybe a few other things here and there for speed limits and stuff like that. But aside from that, it's pretty straightforward. Now, most people don't realize you can do this. Most people kind of just go in and change their profile based on, you know, for their personal profile, or if someone else, like your husband, your wife, or anybody else is driving your vehicle, or any another family member or a friend. And it's one way to do it. Obviously, that's the design, that's the purpose behind it. But in this case, using it as a kind of quick little changeover when you're going on road trips compared to when you're just, you know, driving around on your everyday life, it makes, I think, a huge difference. I even changed the seating. Now the seating is obviously pretty neat, because basically what I take is I take my original, so whatever I am doing every day, and then I create another profile on that under this one, and because it's keeping the current status of what I have now, I just made the changes that I would want for a road trip. And typically what I do is I do that after 1 or 2 trips. I kind of fine-tune it, and you'll notice that whenever you decide to go on a road trip, you just switch over and your seat gets in a more comfortable position. Your steering wheel might get in a more comfortable position. You might want you know, easy in, easy out type of thing. What do they call that? I keep forgetting what it's called. Valet mode, right? You can put that on. So you definitely have a few extra options for you when you're out on road trips. And I think this is important because most people don't realize that that option is there. Even for myself, I haven't used it lately. You can do the smart preconditioning. I use that sometimes for my personal account, and then for my road trip account I take that off, because the smart preconditioning doesn't really work when you're kind of being random. The smart preconditioning learns your habits, so you don't really want that on your driver profile for your road trips. But aside from that, I think it's really neat that you can make all these little adjustments and have a setting specifically for your road trips. And so if you're the kind of person who likes to take road trips, you definitely want to be doing this. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a really interesting trip video. I really, these kind of little tips and tricks I haven't heard anywhere. Nobody talked about this, and just having the ability to do it, I think, is really awesome. Let me know what you think. Give it a try for yourself. It doesn't really do any harm to you. All it does is it changes certain settings, and you can fine-tune that however you want. You can even do it in advance if you like. But I would highly recommend, whenever you're deciding to go on a road trip, just simply switch over and then fine-tune it that way, rather than trying to fine-tune it from the beginning. Some of the stuff, sure, like for example, lights on after exiting, sure, you can put that on in advance. Or if you know that you're going to be going to you know, if you're in Canada, you know that you're going to be going to the United States and Canada, because it's miles and kilometers, you may want to create 2 separate trip profiles. So create the one for Canada first, and then basically go and create another one from that setting, and then you just modify the miles, and that's about it. I hope you guys found this useful. Let me know in the comments below. I know it's a different tip and trick video. It's not exactly something that I haven't heard anyone else talk about it, so I'm very curious what you guys think. Leave me your comments below. Don't forget, every Tuesday we're gonna have well, Tesla dash cams, so send us your Tesla footage, and that's gonna be at summontesla@gmail.com, and you might be featured on the next Tesla dash cam video, Tesla cam video. So that's going to be Tuesdays, and then Saturday it's going to be subscriber highlights. So basically, for all of you guys who are leaving comments, if you're asking a specific question or you want to know a specific thing, ask me. I'll make a video just for that particular comment, And so that's what it is. So make sure you guys are commenting below, because I can do a highlight for you guys. All right. Thank you very much. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to subscribe. Give this video a thumbs up if you liked it. Give it a thumbs down if you didn't like it. And with that said, drive safe, everyone.